On Christmas morning, my son Steve called. "Dad, maybe you and Daniel should just stay home this year. I don't want Daniel to embarrass me in front of my in-laws." Daniel is my 19-year-old autistic son. I didn't argue, I didn't say anything, I simply said, "Okay," and hung up. That evening, Daniel and I celebrated our own Christmas. But by nightfall, my phone was buzzing non-stop. 25 missed calls from Steve, 30 missed calls from some unknown number. I had no idea that our quiet decision would soon become the story that changed everything. Before I tell you what really happened, like this video, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you are listening to my story from. I want to know how far it has reached. My name is Robert Mitchell, and I raised 2 sons alone after my wife Sarah passed away from cancer 12 years ago. Steve is 32, married with 2 kids of his own. Daniel is 19, autistic, and the light of my life in ways I never expected. The phone call came at 8:47 a.m. on Christmas morning. I was in the kitchen making Daniel's favorite breakfast, chocolate chip pancakes with extra whipped cream. He was in the living room, organizing his collection of vintage train catalogs by publication date. Organization calms him. Routine keeps his world steady. "Dad, maybe you and Daniel should just stay home this year." Steve's voice came through the speaker. I froze. "What do you mean?" "Look, Jennifer's parents are coming. Her mom is already stressed about hosting. I just think, you know how Daniel gets. The noise, the questions about his trains. I don't want him to embarrass me in front of my in-laws." My hand tightened around the phone. Daniel had been talking about Christmas at Steve's house for 3 weeks. He'd already wrapped presents for his nephews. Carefully selected train sets he'd researched for hours. He'd practiced his indoor voice and his handshake greeting. "Okay," I said quietly. Then I hung up. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the pancakes browning on the griddle. Behind me, I could hear Daniel humming, a sign he was content, anticipating a good day. "Daniel," I called out, keeping my voice steady. "Change of plans, buddy. We're having Christmas here, just you and me." He appeared in the doorway, his face concerned. At 19, Daniel is tall and lean, with his mother's dark hair and gentle eyes. "Steve's house?" he asked. "Not this year, but we're going to have an even better Christmas, I promise." His face went through several expressions: confusion, disappointment, then acceptance. "Okay, Dad, just us is good too. You make better pancakes than Jennifer anyway," I smiled, though my heart was breaking, not for me, but for my son who'd just been rejected by his own brother and didn't fully understand why. We spent that day together, just the 2 of us. We ate too much food, watched Daniel's favorite movies, and he showed me every single train catalog in his collection, explaining the historical significance of each locomotive. I listened to every word, even though I'd heard it all before. By nightfall, I was exhausted but content. Daniel was happy. That's all that mattered. Then my phone started buzzing. 1 call from Steve, then another. Then 3 more in quick succession. I ignored them all. Then an unknown number started calling. Again and again, I turned my phone to silent and went to bed. The next morning, I woke to find my phone completely overwhelmed. 25 missed calls from Steve, 30 from various unknown numbers, dozens of text messages. My email inbox had over 300 new messages. My hand shook as I opened the first text from Steve. "Dad, call me now, this is serious." Another from a number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Mitchell, this is Amanda Peterson from the Today Show. We'd like to schedule an interview." Today Show? What? I scrolled through more messages. CNN, BBC, The New York Times. "Good morning, America." My head spun. Then I saw a text from my neighbor, Margaret. "Robert, I don't know what's happening, but there are news vans on our street. Be careful." I walked to my front window and pulled back the curtain. 3 vans with satellite dishes were parked outside my house. A cluster of people with cameras stood on the sidewalk. "Dad?" Daniel appeared beside me, still in his pajamas. "Why are those people here?" "I don't know, buddy, but we're going to find out." I called Steve back. He answered on the first ring, "Dad." Finally. "What have you done?" "I didn't do anything." "What's going on? What's going on? What's going on?" His voice was nearly hysterical. "Daniel is all over the internet. You made me look like a monster." "Steve, I have no idea what you're talking about. Slow down. Check Twitter. Check Facebook. Check anywhere. My life is ruined." He hung up. I pulled out my laptop with trembling hands and opened Twitter. The first thing I saw was a trending hashtag. #JusticeForDaniel. I clicked on it. The screen filled with posts, thousands of them, all from the past 12 hours, and at the center of it all was a video. A video of Daniel. My heart stopped as I pressed play. It was Daniel, sitting in our living room yesterday evening, speaking directly into the camera. But I hadn't seen him recording anything. When had he done this? "Hi, my name is Daniel Mitchell." His voice came through the speakers, clear and steady. "Yesterday was Christmas. My brother Steve told my dad that I couldn't come to his house because I might embarrass him. I'm autistic. Sometimes I talk too much about trains and I don't always understand social rules, but I'm still a person. I still have feelings." He paused, and I could see his hands fidgeting slightly, a sign he was nervous. My dad didn't argue with Steve. He just said, "I understand," and hung up. Then he made me the best Christmas ever, just the two of us. He didn't tell me what Steve said. He protected me, but I heard it anyway. I was in the living room. I heard everything. My chest tightened. He'd heard. All along, he'd heard. "I'm making this video because I want people to know that my dad is a hero. He chose me over my brother. He didn't make me feel bad. He made Christmas perfect. But I also want people to know that words hurt. When you exclude people who are different, it hurts them, and it hurts the people who love them." The video ended there. It had been viewed 4.7 million times. The number kept climbing as I watched. The comment section was flooded. "This father is what real love looks like. Steve should be ashamed of himself. Daniel is so brave for sharing this. I'm crying. This is what the world needs to see." But there were also darker comments. "Someone find out where Steve works. What's Steve's address? Let's pay him a visit. Steve Mitchell needs to pay for this." I felt sick. This had spiraled completely out of control. I scrolled further and found news articles already written about the video. Autistic teen's heartbreaking Christmas video goes viral. Father chooses dignity over family drama. The Christmas exclusion that broke the internet. Someone had found Steve's Facebook page. His workplace, his wife's Instagram, everything was being shared, dissected, judged. My phone rang again. This time I answered, "Mr. Mitchell. This is Caroline Zhang from CNN. We'd like you and Daniel to appear on our morning show tomorrow to discuss." "No," I said. "No interviews. Please leave us alone, sir. People are very moved by Daniel's story. This could be a powerful moment to discuss autism awareness and—" I said no. I hung up. Daniel was sitting on the couch, watching me with worried eyes. Am I in trouble? I sat down beside him, pulling him into a hug. "No, buddy, you're not in trouble, but we need to talk about the video you made. I made it last night after you went to bed. I posted it to TikTok. I only have 23 followers, so I didn't think anyone would see it. But then people started sharing it. A lot of people. Why did you make it?" He looked at his hands. "Because Steve was wrong, and because I wanted people to know that you're the best dad. You always choose me, even when it's hard. I wanted the world to know that." Tears burned my eyes. "Daniel, I will always choose you, always. But now there are a lot of people who want to talk to us, and some people are saying mean things about Steve. This has gotten very big, I know, I saw. Some people found Steve's phone number and called him bad words. Jennifer deleted her Instagram. He looked up at me, eyes wide. Did I make a mistake?" Before I could answer, there was a pounding on the front door. "Dad, open up. We need to talk." Steve's voice, angry and desperate. I looked at Daniel. "Stay here." I opened the door to find Steve on my porch, his face red and furious. Jennifer stood behind him, looking exhausted and scared. Behind them, cameras from the news vans had turned in our direction. "Inside, now," I said, pulling them through the door and slamming it shut. Steve whirled on me. "How could you let him do this? Do you have any idea what you've done to my life?" "I didn't know he made the video." "You are lying. You put him up to this. You're trying to destroy me." "Steve, lower your voice. Don't tell me what to do." I've had to disconnect my phone. Jennifer had to shut down all her social media. People are calling my office. My boss wants to talk to me about the situation. My kids are being harassed at their friends' houses. All because you couldn't just let Christmas go. Jennifer put a hand on his arm. "Steve, maybe we should—" "No," he shook her off. "Dad, you need to fix this. Get Daniel to take down the video. Make him post something saying it was all a misunderstanding. Anything." I felt my jaw clench. The video is already out there. Taking it down won't change anything now. Then get him to lie. Say I never said those things. "But you did say them." Daniel's voice came from behind me. He'd come to the doorway despite my instructions to stay put. "You did say I would embarrass you." I heard it. Steve's face went pale, then red again. "Daniel, you don't understand. Social media is ruining my life. People are threatening me." "Don't you care about that?" "I care," Daniel said softly. "But you didn't care about me. You told Dad I would embarrass you. Because you talk too much about trains, because you don't read the room, because—" Steve caught himself, but it was too late. The words hung in the air like poison. Jennifer's face crumpled. "Steve." "Get out," I said quietly. "Get out," I said, I roared, loud enough that Steve actually stepped back. "You come into my house, you speak to your brother that way, you demand that we lie to protect you. Get out of my house." "Now, fine." Steve backed toward the door. "But when this destroys my entire life, remember that you did this, both of you." He stormed out, Jennifer trailing behind him with tears streaming down her face. She mouthed "I'm sorry" to me before the door slammed shut. I turned to Daniel, who was shaking. I pulled him into my arms. "It's okay, everything's going to be okay," but I wasn't sure I believed it. The next few days were chaos. The story exploded across every form of media. News outlets camped outside our house. My phone never stopped ringing. Daniel's video reached 20 million views, then 30, then 40. People started showing up at our door, not just reporters, but regular people who wanted to thank Daniel for speaking out, parents of autistic children, adults on the spectrum themselves. They brought cards, gifts, flowers. The pile on our porch grew until I had to start moving it inside. A GoFundMe appeared that I hadn't authorized, titled "Support Daniel and His Hero Dad." It raised $50,000 in 2 days. I had no idea what to do with it, but the attention on Steve intensified too. Someone found his address and spray-painted "bigot" on his garage door. His boss put him on paid leave until the situation died down. Jennifer's parents stopped speaking to them. Steve's friends started avoiding him. I felt torn. Yes, what Steve said was wrong, but I never wanted him destroyed. On the 3rd day after Christmas, my lawyer called. I'd hired him because reporters kept trespassing and I needed legal protection. "Robert, we have a problem," Marcus said. "Steve is threatening to sue you and Daniel for defamation." My stomach dropped. "What?" "He's claiming the video painted him in a false light, that Daniel misrepresented what happened, and that you orchestrated the whole thing to damage his reputation." "That's insane." Daniel told the truth. "I know. And he'd lose the case, but the process alone could be expensive and stressful. He's also threatening to sue for emotional distress and loss of income. His loss of income is from his own words." "I agree, but Robert, I'm worried about something else. Steve is desperate. Desperate people do unpredictable things. Be careful." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the little boy Steve used to be, the one who held Daniel's hand when he was scared, who defended him at the playground, who promised he'd always be his best friend. Where had that boy gone? The answer came 2 days later, in the form of a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Mitchell. This is Detective Sarah Reeves with the county police. We need you to come down to the station. It's about your son Steve." My heart stopped. "What happened? Is he okay?" "He's fine, physically. But he's been arrested. We need to talk to you about it." An hour later, I sat in a small interview room at the police station, Detective Reeves across from me. She was in her 40s, with kind eyes but a serious demeanor. "Mr. Mitchell, Steve was arrested this morning for attempting to hack Daniel's social media accounts. He was trying to delete the video and post a retraction." I stared at her. What? "He hired someone on the dark web to break into Daniel's accounts. The person he hired was actually an undercover officer running a sting operation. Steve was caught in the act. He's being charged with unauthorized computer access and conspiracy to commit fraud." Oh my God, I put my head in my hands. Where is he now?" "He made bail an hour ago. But Mr. Mitchell, there's more. When we searched his computer, we found evidence that he'd been planning something else. We found searches for how to prove someone mentally incompetent, and can autistic adults be committed involuntarily." My blood ran cold. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we believe Steve was researching ways to have Daniel declared incompetent so he could gain guardianship and control his social media. Possibly to delete everything and make this go away. That's crazy. Daniel is perfectly capable of managing his own life." "We know, but Steve is desperate. The publicity has destroyed his reputation, and he's grasping at any solution. I'm telling you this because you need to protect Daniel. Get a lawyer. Make sure all Daniel's legal affairs are in order. Don't let Steve have any opening to challenge his autonomy. I left the police station in a daze. My son, my firstborn, had been arrested. And not just for some impulsive mistake. He'd been planning to take away Daniel's rights, to make him legally helpless. The betrayal cut deeper than anything Steve had said on Christmas morning. When I got home, reporters shouted questions about Steve's arrest. The story had already broken online. I pushed through them without comment and locked the door behind me. Daniel was in the living room, organizing his train catalogs again, his comfort activity. "Daniel, we need to talk about something important." He looked up, instantly concerned. "Is Steve okay?" Even after everything, his first thought was whether his brother was okay. That's who Daniel is. "Steve is. He made some bad choices. He tried to hack your social media accounts to delete your video." Daniel's eyes widened. "Why would he do that?" "Because he's scared, because he's desperate. Because he thinks making the video go away will fix everything." I sat down beside him. "But Daniel, we need to make sure you're protected. We need to get some legal documents in place that prove you can make your own decisions. Just in case Steve tries to challenge that." "You mean he might try to say I can't think for myself?" "I'm worried he might try, not because it's true, but because he's not thinking clearly right now." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Steve used to be nice. When I was little and kids teased me at school, he would make them stop. He said brothers protect each other." His voice cracked. "What happened to him?" "I don't know, buddy. Sometimes people change. Sometimes fear makes them do things they wouldn't normally do. Do you think he'll ever be nice again?" I pulled Daniel close. "I hope so, I really hope so, but I wasn't sure I believed it." The next week brought more twists. The charges against Steve were downgraded to a misdemeanor when the prosecutor decided there wasn't enough evidence for the more serious conspiracy charges. Steve took a plea deal. 6 months probation, a fine, and mandatory counseling. But the court of public opinion was less forgiving. Steve lost his job. Jennifer filed for separation. He moved into a cheap apartment on the other side of town. His life, as he'd predicted, had imploded, and I felt guilty about it. I knew that was irrational. Steve had made his own choices, but he was still my son. I'd raised him. Somewhere along the way, I'd failed to teach him what really mattered. 2 weeks after Christmas, Daniel's video hit 50 million views. We'd been contacted by advocates for disability rights, by autism organizations, by publishers wanting Daniel to write a book. The world had embraced him as a symbol of resilience and honesty. But Daniel himself seemed overwhelmed. He started sleeping more. His appetite decreased. He stopped organizing his catalogs. "Daniel, talk to me," I said one evening as we sat together on the couch. "What's going on in your head?" "Everyone says I'm inspiring," he said softly. "Everyone says I'm brave. But Dad, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I just wanted people to know you're a good dad. I didn't want to destroy Steve's life." "You didn't destroy his life. He did that himself. But if I hadn't made the video." "Then what?" "Then you would have kept quiet about being hurt. Then Steve would have gotten away with excluding you with no consequences." "Daniel, you told the truth. That's all you did. What happened after that wasn't your fault." "But I feel bad for him. Does that make me stupid?" "No, buddy. That makes you kind. That makes you human. Steve hurt you, but you still care about him. That's not stupid. That's love." Daniel leaned against my shoulder. "I miss how things used to be, before Christmas, before everything." "Me too." We sat in silence for a while. Then Daniel said, "Dad, do you think we could try to fix this? With Steve?" "I don't know if Steve wants to fix it. But we could try, couldn't we?" I looked at my 19-year-old son, who'd been rejected and hurt by his brother, whose privacy had been invaded by millions of strangers, who'd become an unwilling symbol in a cultural conversation about disability and acceptance, and who still had room in his heart for forgiveness. "Yeah," I said, "we could try." The next day, I called Steve. He didn't answer. I left a voicemail. "Steve, it's Dad. Daniel wants to talk to you. No pressure. Just when you're ready. We'll be here." He didn't call back. 3 days passed. Then a week. I started to think he never would. Then, on a Tuesday evening, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Steve standing on the porch. He looked terrible, unshaven, hollow-eyed, like he hadn't slept in days. "Can I come in?" he asked quietly. I stepped aside. Daniel was in the living room. When he saw Steve, he stood up uncertainly. "Hi." "Hi," Steve said. Then he started crying. Not gentle tears, but deep, wrenching sobs that shook his whole body. "I'm so sorry." "Daniel, Dad, I'm so sorry for everything." Daniel looked at me, unsure what to do. I nodded, and he walked over to Steve and awkwardly patted his shoulder. "It's okay," Daniel said. "You can sit down." We all sat together in the living room. Steve wiped his eyes with his sleeve, struggling to compose himself. "I lost everything," he said. "My job, my marriage, my reputation, and the worst part is, I deserve it. Every single consequence. I deserve it." "Steve," I started. "No, Dad, let me finish. I need to say this." He looked at Daniel. "I was wrong. I was so worried about what Jennifer's parents would think, about maintaining this perfect image, that I forgot what actually matters. You're my brother. You've always been my brother. And I threw that away because I was too much of a coward to stand up and say my brother is autistic and I love him, and if you have a problem with that, you can leave." Daniel's eyes were wet. "You love me." "Of course I love you, I always have, but I don't know. I got caught up in trying to be someone I thought I was supposed to be, someone impressive, someone important. And I forgot that the most important thing I could be is your brother." "You can still be my brother," Daniel said, "if you want to be." Steve broke down again. "I don't deserve that, after everything I've done." "Maybe not," I said quietly, "but Daniel is offering it anyway. That's who he is. The question is, who are you going to be?" Steve looked at me, then at Daniel. "I want to be better. I want to fix this, but I don't know how. Everything's such a mess." "One step at a time," I said. "First step is apologizing, which you've done. Second step is meaning it. Third step is changing." "I want to make a video," Steve said suddenly. "A real one, where I take responsibility, where I apologize to Daniel publicly, the way I hurt him publicly. Would that be okay?" Daniel looked at me. I shrugged. "It's your decision, buddy." "Okay," Daniel said, "but only if you mean it. Not just because you want people to stop being mad at you." "I mean it," Steve said. "I swear I mean it." 2 days later, Steve posted a video to YouTube. No fancy editing, no script, just Steve, sitting in his bare apartment, speaking directly to the camera. "My name is Steve Mitchell. You probably know me as the guy who excluded his autistic brother from Christmas, the guy who said Daniel would embarrass me. The guy who became a symbol of everything wrong with how we treat people with disabilities." He paused, taking a shaky breath. "I'm here to say that every bit of anger directed at me was deserved. I said those things, I meant them in that moment, and I was wrong. Not just wrong in a oops bad choice way, wrong in a fundamental way that revealed how much I'd lost sight of what matters. Daniel is my brother. He's smart, kind, passionate about things he loves, and more forgiving than I have any right to expect. He didn't make that first video to hurt me. He made it to honor our dad, who has spent 19 years making sure Daniel knows he's loved and valued exactly as he is. I spent years doing the same thing. When we were kids, I protected Daniel. I stood up for him. I was proud to be his brother. Then somewhere along the way, I started caring more about what other people thought than about being a good person. I started seeing Daniel as a potential embarrassment instead of as my brother who deserves respect and inclusion. The consequences of my words have been severe. I lost my job. My marriage is over. My life imploded, and you know what? I earned every bit of that. Not because I should be punished forever, but because actions have consequences, and my actions revealed a character flaw I didn't want to admit existed. I'm not making this video to ask for forgiveness from the internet. I don't deserve that, and I'm not asking for it. I'm making this video because Daniel deserves a public apology as real as the hurt I caused him publicly, and because other people who might have said or thought similar things about people with disabilities deserve to see what happens when you let fear and image consciousness override basic human decency. To everyone who called me out, who was angry, who defended Daniel, thank you. You held up a mirror I needed to see. I'm in therapy now. I'm working on understanding why I acted the way I did. I'm trying to become someone my brother can be proud of again. Daniel, if you're watching this, I love you. I'm sorry, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be the brother you deserved all along." The video ended. It went viral almost as fast as Daniel's original video had, but this time, the comments were different, complex. Some people said Steve was just trying to rehabilitate his image. Others said his apology seemed genuine. Debates raged about whether public shaming led to real change or just forced performance. I didn't care about any of that. I cared about whether Steve meant what he said. Time would tell. A month passed. Steve got a new job at a smaller company that was willing to take a chance on him. He started showing up at our house every Sunday for dinner. At first, Conversations were awkward and stilted, but gradually, things eased. Daniel and Steve started talking about trains again. Steve actually listened this time, asked questions, showed genuine interest. He apologized again, privately this time, multiple times, until Daniel told him he didn't need to keep apologizing. "You're doing better now," Daniel said. "That's what matters." Jennifer reached out to me one evening, asking if we could talk. We met at a coffee shop, and she looked exhausted but relieved. "I wanted to thank you," she said, "for not turning Steve away when he showed up at your door. My parents told me I should keep him away from the kids until he fixed his reputation. But you and Daniel, you gave him something more important than reputation. You gave him a chance to actually change." "It was Daniel's decision," I said. "He's the one who chose to forgive. Daniel is extraordinary. I always knew that, but I didn't defend him when Steve made that comment about Christmas. I should have. I let Steve's anxiety about my parents' opinions become more important than doing the right thing. I'm sorry for that." "Are you and Steve?" "We're in counseling. I don't know if we'll get back together. He has a lot of work to do, and so do I, but I want our kids to have a father who's a good person, and I think he's trying to become that person again." Spring came. The media attention finally died down. Daniel's video became one of those internet moments that people referenced but didn't actively obsess over anymore. Life returned to something resembling normal, except things weren't normal, they were better. Steve was different now, humbled, more thoughtful, more present. He'd taken a hard look at his priorities and restructured his entire life around what actually mattered: his kids, his family, becoming a person of integrity. Daniel had gained confidence from the whole experience. He started speaking at local autism advocacy events, sharing his story and encouraging other young adults on the spectrum to advocate for themselves. He even started a YouTube channel about trains that gained a modest but devoted following. As for me, I learned something important. Sometimes the biggest act of love is not fixing things for your children, but letting them face the consequences of their choices while leaving the door open for redemption. On the first Sunday in May, we were all gathered around my dinner table. Me, Daniel, Steve, Jennifer, and Steve's kids. It was the first time we'd all been together since that catastrophic Christmas. My grandson Tommy, who was 6, asked Daniel to tell him about trains. Daniel's face lit up, and he launched into an explanation of steam locomotive engineering that was technically accurate but way over Tommy's head. Steve didn't interrupt, didn't redirect, didn't try to hurry Daniel along. He just smiled and listened, and when Daniel was finally finished, Steve said, "That was really interesting. Thanks for teaching us," Tommy said. "Uncle Daniel is smart." "He is," Steve agreed. "He's the smartest person I know." Daniel beamed. After dinner, Steve pulled me aside. "Dad, I need to tell you something." "What's that?" "I'm starting a foundation for autism advocacy and family support. I want to use what happened, the whole nightmare, to actually do some good, to help families learn from my mistakes, to support parents like you who are doing it right. I've been meeting with nonprofits, learning about the real issues, trying to figure out how to make a genuine difference." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Steve, that's incredible. It's the least I can do. I caused so much damage. Maybe I can help repair some damage that other people have caused. Maybe I can keep other families from making the mistakes I made. I'm proud of you," I said. "Your mother would be proud of you." We stood there for a moment, father and son, and I thought about how far we'd come from that terrible Christmas morning, about how sometimes the worst moments crack us open and let the light in. That evening, as I was getting ready for bed, Daniel knocked on my door. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Always, buddy." "Do you think everything that happened was worth it? All the bad stuff with Steve and the media and everything. Do you think it was worth it to get to where we are now?" I thought about that question carefully, about the pain, the chaos, the violation of our privacy, about Steve's suffering and Daniel's stress, and the entire mess that had consumed months of our lives. "I think," I said slowly, "that I wish none of the bad stuff had to happen. But since it did, I'm grateful for what came out of it. You found your voice. Steve found his way back to who he used to be, and our family is stronger now than it was before, so maybe it was worth it. Maybe pain can be worth it if it leads to growth." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "I still miss how things were before. When it was simpler." "Me too. But you know what? I think we're going to be okay. Better than okay." He hugged me goodnight, and I watched him walk back to his room, this young man who'd accidentally started a movement just by telling his truth. The next morning, I found an email in my inbox from the publisher who'd been pursuing Daniel for months about writing a book. I'd been ignoring them. But this email was different. They were proposing a book written by both Daniel and Steve, about mistakes, forgiveness, and family. I forwarded it to both of them without comment. An hour later, my phone rang. It was Steve. "Dad, did you see? I saw, what do you think?" "I think it's not my decision. It's between you and Daniel." That afternoon, Steve and Daniel met at a coffee shop to discuss it. I wasn't there, but Daniel told me about it later. "Steve said he didn't want to profit from hurting me," Daniel explained. "He said any money from the book should go to autism organizations." I said that was good. Then we talked about what we'd want the book to say, and what would you want it to say? That people make mistakes, that saying sorry is important but not enough, you have to change, that families are complicated but worth fighting for. That people with disabilities deserve respect and inclusion not because it's nice, but because we're people, and that dads like you are heroes. I felt my throat tighten. "I'm not a hero, Daniel, I just love you. That's what makes you a hero," he said simply. 3 months later, Steve and Daniel signed a book deal. They spent the summer working on it together, meeting twice a week to write and revise and argue and laugh. Watching them rebuild their relationship around this shared project was like watching a bone heal. Slow, sometimes painful, but ultimately stronger than before. Jennifer and Steve went to counseling every week. By August, she'd moved back in with him, not because everything was perfect, but because they'd both done the work to become better versions of themselves. The book came out in October, just before the 1-year anniversary of that terrible Christmas. It was called The Christmas That Changed Us, a story of mistakes, disability, and family. The book tour was small. A few local bookstores, some podcasts, a radio interview or two. But people who read it connected with it deeply. Reviews praised both the honesty and the hope. At a book signing in our hometown, a woman approached Daniel with tears in her eyes. "My son is autistic," she said. "My father-in-law said he shouldn't come to Thanksgiving this year because he makes too much noise. I was going to say yes, to keep the peace. But I read your book, and I called my father-in-law and told him that my son is invited to every family gathering, and if he has a problem with that, he doesn't have to come. Thank you for giving me the courage to do that." Daniel looked at Steve, then back at the woman. "Thank you for choosing your son," he said. After she left, Steve said quietly, "That's what this is all about, isn't it? Choosing the people we love over the comfort of people who don't matter as much." "Yeah," Daniel said. "That's what Dad taught us." On Christmas Eve, almost exactly 1 year after the phone call that changed everything, we gathered at Steve and Jennifer's house. This time, Daniel was invited. This time, he was welcomed. Jennifer's parents were there too. Her mother pulled me aside before dinner. "I owe you an apology," she said stiffly. "I was part of the problem. I made comments about how maybe it would be easier if Daniel didn't come. I didn't understand how that sounded, how hurtful it was. I'm sorry." "Thank you for saying that," I said, "but maybe you should tell Daniel." She did. Daniel, gracious as always, told her he forgave her and launched into an explanation of the new model train set he'd brought for Tommy. She actually listened. At dinner, Steve raised his glass. "I want to propose a toast," he said. "1 year ago, I made the worst mistake of my life. I let fear and pride override love and loyalty. I hurt the people who mattered most to me, and I'm standing here today because Daniel and Dad refused to give up on me, even when I'd given up on myself." He turned to Daniel. "Little brother, you are braver, kinder, and stronger than I ever gave you credit for. You told the truth when it was hard. You forgave me when I didn't deserve it. And you've taught me more about what it means to be a good person than anyone else in my life. I love you. I'm proud to be your brother." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too." Steve turned to me. "Dad, you raised us to be good men. I lost sight of that for a while, but you never stopped showing me what it looked like. Thank you for not shutting the door on me. Thank you for teaching me that it's never too late to change." I couldn't speak. I just nodded, my own eyes burning. Steve raised his glass higher. "To family, to second chances. To the courage to admit when we're wrong, and to the love that holds us together even when we fall apart. To family," we all echoed. As we ate dinner, I watched my family. My complicated, imperfect, beautiful family, and felt a peace I hadn't known in years. Tommy and his little sister sat on either side of Daniel, asking him endless questions about trains. Steve and Jennifer held hands under the table. Jennifer's parents actually smiled when Daniel got excited and started talking louder than he meant to. After dinner, Daniel pulled out his phone. "Can I show you something?" He opened his TikTok app. His follower count had grown to over 200,000. "I make videos about trains now," he explained to Jennifer's parents. "But I also make videos about being autistic, about how to talk to autistic people, how to include them, how to understand that we're not broken. We just experience the world differently." "How wonderful," Jennifer's mother said, and to my surprise, she sounded genuine. Daniel scrolled through some of his recent videos. One had over 1 million views. It was titled What My Brother Taught Me About Forgiveness. In it, Daniel talked about that terrible Christmas, about the video that went viral, about the destruction and rebuilding that followed. But the focus wasn't on Steve's mistake. It was on his change. A lot of people ask me why I forgave my brother, Daniel said in the video. They say he didn't deserve it. Maybe they're right, but I didn't forgive him for him. I forgave him for me, because holding on to anger was making me sad, and because I wanted my brother back more than I wanted to punish him. When he came to apologize, I could tell he meant it, not just because of his words, but because of what came after. He showed up. He changed. He became the brother I remembered from when we were kids. That's what real apology looks like. Not just saying sorry, but becoming someone who wouldn't make the same mistake again. The video ended with Daniel smiling at the camera. If someone hurt you, you don't owe them forgiveness. But if they're really trying to change, and if you want them in your life, forgiveness can give you both a second chance. That's what happened with me and Steve, and I'm glad I gave him that chance. Jennifer's mother wiped her eyes. That's beautiful, Daniel. Later that evening, after Jennifer's parents had left and the kids were asleep, the four of us, me, Steve, Jennifer, and Daniel, sat in the living room with coffee. I never asked you, Steve said to Daniel. Why did you make that first video? The one that started everything. Daniel was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing the rim of his mug. I heard what you said to Dad about me embarrassing you, and it hurt. Really bad, but what hurt worse was that Dad just said, I understand, and hung up. I thought maybe he agreed with you. Maybe he was embarrassed by me too, Daniel. I started, horrified. I know now you weren't, Daniel continued. I know you were protecting me, but in that moment, I was sad and confused, so I made the video because I wanted to tell the world that you're a good dad. That you chose me, and I wanted people to know that it hurts when family members are ashamed of you for being different. I never thought it would go viral, he added. I just wanted to say how I felt. I didn't know millions of people would see it. I didn't know what would happen to Steve. It's okay, Steve said. What happened to me was my own fault. Your video just exposed a truth I'd been hiding, from everyone else and from myself. Do you wish I hadn't made it? Daniel asked. Steve considered this. 6 months ago, I would have said yes, but now, no. Because if you hadn't made it, I'd still be the person who excludes his brother to impress people who don't really matter. I'd still be teaching my kids that image is more important than integrity. I'd still be losing myself to become someone I thought I was supposed to be. He looked directly at Daniel. Your video destroyed my life, but it also saved it. It forced me to confront who I'd become and decide if that's who I wanted to be, and I decided it wasn't. So no, I don't wish you hadn't made it. I wish I'd never given you a reason to make it in the first place. Jennifer squeezed Steve's hand. I'm proud of you, she said softly. Both of you. This whole year has been tough, but we came out better on the other side. Not everyone did, I said quietly. There were people online who said terrible things to Steve, who tried to get him fired, who harassed him. That wasn't okay either. No, it wasn't, Daniel agreed. I felt bad about that. I made a video asking people to stop. I said that making mistakes doesn't mean someone deserves to have their whole life destroyed, but I don't think many people listened. That's the problem with the internet, Jennifer said. Once something goes viral, you lose control of it. It becomes bigger than the people involved. It becomes a symbol, a battleground for everyone's opinions about everything. But some good came out of it too, Steve said. The foundation we're starting has funding now. We've connected with organizations all over the country. We're helping families navigate these exact situations. When a family member says or does something hurtful to someone with a disability, how do you address it? How do you heal? How do you move forward? What's the answer? I asked. There's no single answer, Steve said. Every family is different, but the core principles are the same. Honesty, accountability, change, and forgiveness. Not cheap forgiveness that pretends nothing happened, but real forgiveness that acknowledges the hurt and chooses to move past it. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, sipping our coffee and listening to the soft sounds of the house settling around us. Then Daniel said, Dad, can I ask you something? That day on the phone, when Steve said I would embarrass him, why did you just say, I understand, instead of arguing with him? I'd been dreading this question for a year, because, I said slowly, I knew that arguing in that moment wouldn't change his mind. He'd already made his decision, and I knew that if I argued, if I got angry, he might say things he'd regret even more, things that would be harder to take back. But mostly, I continued, I said, I understand. Because I wanted to get off the phone and protect you from hearing more. I wanted to give you the best Christmas I could, and I couldn't do that if I was upset and angry. So I chose to let it go in that moment, to focus on you, and to deal with Steve later. I didn't know you were protecting me, Daniel said. That's my job. That's what parents do, but it's not just parents, Steve said. It's brothers too. It's family, we protect each other, and I forgot that for a while. But I won't forget again. The conversation drifted to other topics. Plans for the new year, the Foundation's first fundraiser, Daniel's college plans. He decided to study engineering, with a focus on transportation systems. No surprise there. As midnight approached, Steve suggested we go outside to see if we could spot any stars. It was a clear, cold night, and the sky was spectacular. We stood in the backyard, for people who'd been through so much together and somehow made it to the other side, not unchanged, changed profoundly, but still together. Look, Daniel said, pointing up, that's Orion, and over there is Canis Major. Did you know that Sirius, the dog star, is the brightest star in the night sky? It's 8.6 light-years away, which means the light we're seeing right now left that star 8.6 years ago, so we're looking at the past, Jennifer said. In a way, Daniel said, but we're experiencing it in the present, the past and present existing together. Steve looked at me over Daniel's head, and I saw the understanding in his eyes, the past and present existing together, the mistakes we made and the people we'd become. Both real, both part of our story. Come on, I said, it's getting cold. Let's go inside. We filed back into the warm house, and I took one last look at the stars before closing the door. 8.6 years ago, that light left Sirius, traveling through space to reach us on this exact night. Who could have predicted where it would land, or who would be standing here to see it? Who could have predicted any of this? The rest of the winter passed peacefully. The media had moved on to other stories. The viral video was now just part of internet history, referenced occasionally but no longer consuming everyone's attention. Steve's foundation officially launched in February. They called it the Second Chance Foundation, supporting families through disability, conflict, and healing. The name was Steve's idea, because everyone deserves a second chance, he'd said. The family member who made the mistake, and the family member who was hurt, both deserve the chance to heal. The foundation offered family counseling, educational resources, advocacy training, and support groups. Within the first month, they'd helped 17 families navigate conflicts similar to what we'd experienced. Daniel became a spokesperson for the foundation, sharing his story at events and in promotional materials. But he was careful to emphasize that his story was just one story, that every family's situation was unique. I was lucky, he'd say. My brother came back, he changed. Not every family gets that, and that's okay too. Sometimes the healthiest thing is to set boundaries and walk away. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting people keep hurting you. It was a mature perspective for a 19-year-old. But then, Daniel had always been wise in ways that surprised people. In March, I got a call from a producer at 60 Minutes. They wanted to do a follow-up piece on our family. 1 year after the viral video, I called a family meeting. What do you think? I asked. Do we do it? I think we should, Steve said, not for the publicity, but because our story might help other families. It shows that change is possible, that families can heal, but only if everyone's comfortable with it, Jennifer added. Daniel thought about it. Can we talk about the foundation? Not just about what happened to us, but about how other families can get help. I'll make sure that's part of it, I said. We did the interview in April. It aired in May. The segment was titled after the viral video, A Family's Journey from Shame to Healing. It was fair, balanced, and honest. They showed clips from Daniel's original video and Steve's apology. They interviewed all four of us, plus the director of an autism advocacy organization and a family therapist. The segment ended with footage of Steve and Daniel at a foundation event, standing side by side, talking to a family who was struggling with similar issues. The father had excluded his autistic daughter from a family reunion, and now he wanted to make amends but didn't know how. Steve's advice was simple. Start by really listening to why your daughter was hurt. Don't defend yourself. Don't make excuses. Just listen, then apologize. Genuinely apologize, without expecting immediate forgiveness. Then show her through your actions that you've changed. It won't happen overnight. It took months for Daniel to trust me again. But if you're consistent, if you're genuine, you can rebuild that relationship. The segment got a positive response. No viral explosion this time. Just a steady stream of people reaching out to the foundation for help. Life settled into a new rhythm. A better rhythm. By summer, things felt almost normal. Daniel started college, studying engineering like he'd planned. He commuted from home. He wasn't ready for dorm life yet, and that was okay. He joined a club for students interested in railroad history and made a few friends who shared his interests. Steve's career was rebuilding too. He'd been promoted at his new company, and while he'd never have the high-powered position he'd lost, he said he was happier now, less money, less stress, more time with my family, he said. I'll take that trade. Jennifer went back to school to get her master's degree in social work. I want to work with families, she explained. Help them navigate conflicts before they explode. This whole experience showed me what I want to do with my life. As for me, I'd retired from my job as an accountant. I spent my time volunteering with the foundation, spoiling my grandkids, and enjoying the peace that came from knowing my family was intact. On the second anniversary of that terrible Christmas phone call, we all gathered at my house, the place where Daniel had made the video that changed everything. Should we watch it? Steve asked, pulling out his phone, the original video. Do you want to? Daniel asked. I think I need to. To remember where we were, so I can appreciate where we are. We sat together on the couch, the same couch Daniel had sat on when he recorded the video, and Steve pulled up the TikTok post. It had over 60 million views now. We watched in silence as video Daniel explained what had happened, praised his father, and made his quiet plea for understanding and inclusion. When it ended, Steve was crying. Every time I watch this, I see what an ass I was. And I'm grateful Daniel called me out. I'm grateful the world called me out. You weren't an ass, Daniel said. You made a mistake. There's a difference. It was a pretty big mistake. But you fixed it. That's what matters. Steve pulled Daniel into a hug. Thank you for giving me the chance to fix it. We spent the rest of the evening together, sharing memories from the past 2 years. The good, the bad, and the transformative. Tommy, now 8, asked Daniel to tell him again about the video that made Uncle Steve famous. Well, Daniel said, it's a long story. It starts with a phone call on Christmas morning. As Daniel told the story in his own words, I watched my family. My beautiful, complicated, imperfect family, and felt a gratitude so profound it took my breath away. We'd been broken, we'd been scattered, we'd been tested in ways I never imagined. But we'd survived. More than that, we'd grown. That terrible Christmas phone call had been the worst moment of my life. But it had led to some of the best moments too. Steve's transformation, Daniel's advocacy. Our family's healing. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us crack us open and let the light in. Sometimes destruction is the beginning of reconstruction. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find out what really matters. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Daniel came to say goodnight. Dad, I've been thinking about something. What's that, buddy? 2 years ago I was really hurt by what Steve said, and I was angry. But if I could go back in time and change it, make it so Steve never said those things. I don't think I would. No. Because then we wouldn't be who we are now. Steve wouldn't have changed. I wouldn't have found my voice. Our family wouldn't have healed. Sometimes bad things lead to good things, you know. I pulled him into a hug. When did you get so wise? I learned from you, he said simply. After he went to bed, I sat alone in the quiet house and thought about the journey we'd been on. About the viral video and the media circus, the destruction and the rebuilding, the pain and the healing, about a Christmas that had nearly destroyed my family but had ultimately saved it. I thought about Steve, my firstborn, who'd lost his way but found it again. Who'd been humbled and broken and rebuilt into someone stronger. I thought about Daniel, my youngest, who'd taught the world about courage, about honesty, about the power of truth. I thought about forgiveness, about second chances, about the choice to love people even when they hurt you. And I thought about how sometimes the greatest gift we can give someone is not fixing their problems for them, but letting them face the consequences of their actions while keeping the door open for their return. My phone buzzed. A text from Steve. Thanks for tonight, Dad. Thanks for everything. Love you. I texted back. Love you too. Proud of you. Another text came through, this time from Daniel. Best Christmas anniversary ever, even better than the actual Christmas. Good night, Dad. I smiled and turned off my phone. Outside, snow was starting to fall, the first snow of the season. I watched it through the window, each flake unique and beautiful, drifting down to join millions of others, creating something larger than themselves. That's what family is. I thought, individual people, each unique, each imperfect, coming together to create something larger than themselves. Sometimes the pattern gets disrupted, sometimes things fall apart, but if you're patient, if you're willing to do the work, you can rebuild. You can always rebuild. 2 years ago, a phone call on Christmas morning had shattered my world, but from those broken pieces, we'd built something better, something stronger. Something real. I turned off the lights and headed to bed, grateful for the journey, grateful for the destination, and most of all, grateful for the 2 sons who taught me more about love and forgiveness than I'd ever taught them. The story that started with exclusion and hurt had become a story about inclusion and healing. The video that went viral had ultimately brought us closer together, and the Christmas that nearly destroyed us had become the Christmas that saved us. In the darkness of my room, I whispered a prayer of thanks. For second chances, for growth, for the messy, complicated, beautiful thing called family. And for the strength to choose love, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because that's what real love is. Choosing to show up, choosing to forgive, choosing to keep the door open even when someone has walked away. It's choosing your son, every single time, without hesitation, both of them, always. Let me know in the comments where you have watched it from and what you would have done if you were in my place. If you loved my story, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It inspires us to share more such stories with you.